Chapter 33 Wizard's Duel. Keeping a ball of flame in his hand just in case, Aghanim teleported from shadowy corner to shadowy corner while following the directions that Miranda had given him. However, so far he had encountered no resistance, making him believe that the whole fortress was empty. But how could that be? Was Ganondorf really so full of himself that he believed he could defend this place, Zelda, and the Triforce of Power by himself? Apparently the answer was yes, but even if the sorcerer was an overconfident ass, the robed wizard had faced him before, and he knew that his power was not to be underestimated. So he took his time, trying not to let his worry about Miranda interfere with his part of the plan, which was to sneak into the throne room and attempt to free the princess without being detected, so that she would be out of danger when the final confrontation took place. Thankfully, the throne room wasn't very far away, but now he had to be even more careful once he reached the door. The chamber was huge, with doors on all sides, but it appeared to be as empty as the rest. The first thing that he saw was the shimmering red Triforce of Power as it hovered slightly above its pedestal. Then he saw the large throne itself, and finally the young woman who was chained to it sitting on the stairs. She was in rough shape. Her hair was all messed up, her dress was torn in several places, and it looked like there were bruises on her face as if someone had been beating her. Obviously, this girl was Princess Zelda, since Miranda hadn't spoken of any other prisoners. And then Aghanim started to get angry when he imagined that Miranda had once also been chained there. Checking again to make sure that no one was around, he vanished, reappearing behind the throne and trying to stay in the little bit of shadows that were available. Still, there were no guards or monsters in sight, so all that was left was to check for traps. The last thing he wanted to do was spring something that could possibly kill both him and the princess, so he was starting to check for pressure plates. "How long are you going to hide back there, Aghanim?" the Triforce asked. "There are no traps or guards. We are alone here."
"What?"
Zelda asked as she looked around.
"Triforce, who are you talking to?"
"He's talking to me, Your Highness," Aghanim answered, coming out of hiding after a deep breath. "I am Aghanim the Wizard, and I have come here to free you." "How noble of you," the Triforce continued. "Then by all means, try." Wasting no time, the robed wizard turned to throw the fireball at the princess's chain when he suddenly screamed as a bolt of red lightning shot out from the Triforce, striking him in the side. The force knocked him off his feet and sent him sliding across the floor, where he was unable to move until the crackling energy stopped flowing across his body. The pain was still there, though, making him groan as he tried to get up, only to stumble sideways and fall over again. A second try got him up on his hands and knees, and there he remained until the sound of footsteps and slow clapping filled the air. "Not bad, Aghanim, not bad," Ganondorf laughed as he entered the room. "Of course, if you somehow survive the beating I gave you, I'm not surprised that you're still conscious after a hit from the Triforce. Of course, now I have to beat you to death very, very slowly, but I'll give you a choice. Are you going to come over here and die, or do I need to come to you?"
"Stop it!"
Zelda exclaimed as Aghanim tried to get up.
"You don't have to hurt—"
The princess's words were interrupted as Ganondorf suddenly backhanded her, making her yelp as she fell to the floor. The sorcerer then pointed at her and started to say something, but then it was his turn to be interrupted when Aghanim appeared right in front of him with a hard punch to the face. He had still been holding the fireball, so there was a burst of flame as Ganondorf was sent reeling backwards, but he managed to regain his balance after a few steps. "Didn't your father ever teach you not to hit women?" the robed wizard asked, still catching his breath. "Or is it that you're so ugly and ignorant that the only way you can get one is to chain them up?" "I know what you're doing, Aghanim," Ganondorf replied as he wiped the blood off his lip. "You're trying to make me angry so that I ignore Zelda and focus on you, but guess what? It worked." The sorcerer vanished, reappearing off to the side with a kick that Aghanim had to vanish himself to avoid, coming back with an uppercut. Ganondorf was fast enough to catch his wrist, and then he slammed his knee into the robed wizard's stomach before picking him up over his head with both arms. He tossed him as hard as he could, but Aghanim vanished mid-air, reappearing behind him and using the momentum to slam both of his feet into the sorcerer's back. This time, Ganondorf was thrown off his feet, getting a face full of floor as he slid to a stop, but he vanished when the robed wizard tossed another fireball, making it disperse on the floor as the sorcerer reappeared behind him with a kick. His large foot connected with the side of Aghanim's head, throwing the robed wizard sideways when he crashed into the nearby wall before falling to the floor. Ganondorf waited until he was looking at him again before backhanding Zelda across the face, even harder than before. The robed wizard was getting angrier at this brute all the time, but had learned by now that he could not win against him in a fair fight, so he began gathering magical energy in his hands for a little surprise. It would take a little time to prepare, so he did nothing when the sorcerer hit Zelda 2 more times, but this did give him the time he needed. "My father taught me to take what I want," Ganondorf said as he slowly walked toward him. "So I do. Rupees, treasures, women, anything I want, simply because I'm the strongest, and there is nothing that a little weakling like you can do to stop me. That is why I am going to be king of all of Hyrule, and you are going to... Truino!" Aghanim yelled, aiming his hands at him once the sorcerer was standing right over him. A blinding flash of white light suddenly erupted from his hands, whiting out the entire room and making Ganondorf scream in agony as he covered his eyes. Zelda had to hide her face as well, and even Aghanim had to shut his eyes to keep from suffering the effects. The sorcerer had taken the full force, so when the light faded, he was stumbling around like he couldn't see. And that's when the robed wizard attacked. Jumping to his feet, he ran at Ganondorf and grabbed him around the waist, lifting him up as he kept running, and then diving onto the floor so that he was on top of him. He then got on top of the sorcerer and began punching him in the face repeatedly, flames gathering into each one for each hit. Pinning Ganondorf's arms down with his knees, there was burst after burst of fire as he just kept punching him. But then another bolt of lightning came from the Triforce, making Aghanim scream as he was thrown off of his opponent. He crashed onto the throne stairs next to Zelda, and the robed wizard was starting to get up when another red blast put him back down, followed by another, and another, until he couldn't move at all. Even when the energy stopped flowing, he was now in so much pain that breathing made it worse, and now Ganondorf was starting to recover. "Must I do everything for you?" the Triforce asked as the sorcerer got up. "It was only a simple thunder spell. Your sight will recover fully in another 20 seconds. I trust you can handle the little wizard from there." "Of course I can," the sorcerer said as he got up. "No more games, Aghanim." Holding out his hands as if he were holding something, a long and very sharp trident suddenly materialized in his hands. Try as he might, Aghanim was still unable to move as Ganondorf approached. Soon the sorcerer was standing right over him, and he slowly raised up the weapon for the kill, but stopped as the sound of more footsteps was heard entering the room. It was painful to even turn his head, but the robed wizard was glad he did, because now he could see that it was Link and Prince Facade who had come in.
Facade!
Zelda cried happily once she saw him.
Facade, is it really you?
"Yes, my love, it's me," the prince replied confidently. "I've come to rescue you and take you home. But first, Link and I will deal with Gargamel."
You know,
Link added as they readied their weapons, "I'm starting to like the idea of calling him that. Now let's do this."